It's been a little bit since we've heard where things stand on the source of income ordinance that obviously got passed here in Kansas City, and that basically prevented any landlord from saying, hey, if there's something in your background that we don't like, well, we no longer cannot accept you for that reason. Now, I know there's a gray area there, but the mom and pop landlord's going to get screwed by this. As we talked about when this came down a few weeks ago from the Kansas City, Missouri City Council. They thought they were doing something that was going to protect the working man and woman, but it doesn't do anything of that ilk. So David Stokes is here with the Show Me Institute, and there's an update on where that stands down in Jeff City. David, good morning. What do you got for us?
Good morning, Pete. Great to be on the air with you as always. Yeah, the legislation in Jefferson City is really moving, and it's exciting to see. It's House Bill 2385 from State Rep Ben Keithley from St. Louis. Is a bill that basically says cities and counties will no longer have a right to do what Kansas City just did, and which a few other cities in Missouri have done, which is to say, compelling landlords to accept housing vouchers, preventing landlords from asking for criminal records, preventing landlords from using income qualifying examinations to make sure somebody can afford the rent. This bill it's really a good piece of legislation to properly have the state step forward and say, you know what, cities and counties, you don't have the right to do this. You don't have the right to violate landlords' property rights, and you don't have the right to make housing more expensive by limiting supply, which is what these rules really do in the long run. So I'm really happy to see that this legislation has passed the House and it's passed out of Senate committee, and hopefully, with the Senate the way it's been this year, hopefully it will get through the full Senate at some point soon.
That would be outstanding. Then it would go to Governor Parsons' desk, and I can't imagine he would not sign something like this. So basically it would neuter or effectively remove the city ordinance that got passed here in Kansas City earlier in the year.
Yeah, as I understand it, it would apply retroactively. I don't think it has any grandfathering in of the five cities around the state that have this bill. So it would remove it, and it's very much needed. And it started out as a bill just focused solely on the source of income aspect, meaning the housing vouchers. But as it's gone through the legislative process, it's been amended, and in a good way. I think the process has been good for the bill to add in, measures saying you can't prevent landlords from doing a criminal record check. You can't prevent landlords from asking for income verification and a few other things that are very basic to the landlord-tenant process. I mean, we hold landlords out all the time to be in charge of their tenants, to be responsible if their tenants are committing crimes. Like we try to have landlords responsible for everything, and then here we are preventing them through this legislation in Kansas City and a few other cities, preventing them from doing exactly what we want them to do, which is try to rent out to responsible tenants that can afford the bill. So what we've been doing to landlords for years now, I think, is just crazy, and it's great to see the state, which has long had legislation, I should say, making rent control illegal in Missouri, as it should be, and now we're just sort of taking the next logical steps and making sure these other bad policy ideas are going to be illegal too, and hopefully the state will succeed in this
Well,
session.
David, but don't you care? I mean, come on. There are people that are using Section 8 that this is helping, and that's how the city council pitched this. They're helping the working person and the working poor person in Kansas City. Don't you care about them, David Stokes?
I care very much about them, Pete, and that one of the reasons that the Section 8 program, by the standards of federal welfare and benefit programs, it's by most accounts a pretty good program in that it accomplishes its goals and does so at a modest, less regulation and less cost than many other welfare and benefit programs. But one of the reasons it succeeds is because it is voluntary, and that landlords who want to participate in it do. And many of them do. There are many landlords, particularly larger landlord companies and larger rental companies, that willfully and happily participate in the Section 8 program. There are plenty of Section 8 and other housing voucher options in the Kansas City region. There are plenty throughout the state of Missouri, But to mandate, for local governments to mandate a federal program that is voluntary at the federal level, I think is just completely inappropriate. And I really look forward to seeing the state hopefully get this bill across the finish line because these local mandates are just terrible public policy.
But you also look at the fact that there is an affordable housing shortage, as has been written. Homelessness is running higher than it has in years in Kansas City. And the council says that this helps solve much of those problems, David Stokes, but you're not buying it.
It doesn't solve them at all. The Manhattan Institute just released a paper yesterday about source of income rules around the country, and they talked about Missouri in it a little bit. It just came out yesterday, so I haven't read the full thing, but the summary is that, not surprisingly, the costs and harms of these bills are much greater than they say they will be, of course, and the benefits are very minor. So if you want to increase affordable housing in Kansas City, if you want to increase housing options for everybody and assist in the homelessness issues, then one way to do that for Kansas City, and I said this when I testified before the Kansas City Council a few months ago, is to follow the lead of Minneapolis and really liberalize the zoning rules in Kansas City and make it easier to build apartment buildings, make it easier to build multi-unit of families, duplexes and whatever, and reduce at least the areas that are only single-family zoning. You can do that Kansas City Council has every right to do that tomorrow if they want to, and that would be enhancing the ability of the free market to help provide housing. And that has worked in Minneapolis. It's worked in Austin. It's worked in the cities that have gone that route, and that's what Kansas City should do. That would be a route I think a lot of us could get behind.
We'll be following, we'll be watching. Very interesting. David Stokes with the Show Me Institute, and hopefully that deal will get done down there in Jeff City sooner than later. Nice job, David. Appreciate the time.
Well, I'd be delighted if it gets done. Love to come back on the air and talk to you about it when it crosses that finish line, and appreciate all the attention you've given to this issue over the past several months. Always enjoy talking about it with you.
You bet. You pop that bottle on the air if it happens, my man, okay?
Done deal.
Done deal. David Stokes, drunk at 8:30 on a Wednesday. I like the thought of that. All right, David. See you later.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. I could see him. I don't know. David's probably a heavyweight.